Welcome to the Note Nuggets podcast, where you can learn how to become the bank, build wealth, and accumulate streams of income perfect for your savings or IRAs. You'll hear from industry experts, seasoned veterans, and everyday investors. Our goal is to teach you how to invest in notes, one nugget of knowledge at a time. Here's your host, Kevin Galang.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Note Nuggets podcast. One common term you'll hear in the note investing space is the term tape. And a tape is a list of mortgage notes for sale. Typically, this is going to be shared in a spreadsheet. It will contain key information such as the address of the property, the note's performing status, is it a performing or non-performing note, the borrower's name, the interest rate of the note, the origination date, the end date, as well as the original balance. Some tapes will contain the pricing history of the note, and some tapes will contain the sales price of the note, what the seller is expecting you to pay. Once you get a tape, you start your due diligence. And while everyone has their own process, let's hear from a successful note investor and understand how to analyze a tape like a pro. By the way, if you are curious about how and where to find notes, I created a free 15-minute video for you that talks about the 3 ways and 3 things that I do when it comes to finding notes today. So all you have to do is go to notenuggets.com/find notes. Again, that's notenuggets.com/find notes. So let's go ahead and learn about today's guest. Christopher Sevigny is a 20-year real estate professional who works as a director of construction for a Washington, D.C.-based development firm and is a successful note investor with a multi-million-dollar note portfolio. He is a passionate educator and is the co-host of the Good Deeds Note Investing podcast, which I highly, highly recommend you check out as well. And when it comes to market, what are you looking for when you get a tape, you see, okay, do I want these states? And then narrowing it down, what screams as a good market for Sevigny Investments?
Yeah, so it's funny. We have, with our podcast last night, every Thursday night, we have an open mic night where people can come in and ask questions and things. And one of the questions came up was about a recent tape that we had with 500 assets on it. And it came out yesterday, literally like 2 hours before our recording. So we actually pulled it up on the screen and I went through how I break it out, because I'm not going to look at 500 assets, especially when bids are due very shortly. So what I've, first thing is, yes, states. If a list that big, I'll knock it down to 3, 4, 5 states that I'll invest in that are on that list, and then from there, typically I'll look at the values. If there's less than like $10,000 UPB or more than 250,000, typically kind of those get weeded out. Another big one for me is occupancy. Is it occupied? Is it not occupied? Typically, I shy away from vacant properties. Not to say I don't buy them, but they're not my first priority. If there's 50 assets on this tape that are all occupied that I can put bids in, and I'll go after those. If there was only 5 that are occupied, then maybe I might look at some vacant ones at very strategic numbers. The other big one I look at as well is the last payment date, and kind of get a feel for, sometimes if somebody hasn't paid in 3 years and they're still living in the property, they're pretty good at how to beat the system. So, that's something, is that somebody you want to, go toe to toe with in that sense? Because it's, somebody can live in a house 3, 5 years without making a mortgage payment. That's pretty, that's pretty good to be able to get away with that. Don't you think?
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, that's slick. They know something that I don't.
Yeah. And do they know that there might be an issue with the title? Do they know that they filed bankruptcy 3 times and they know how to beat the system? Do they, have an attorney that is a brother or a cousin that basically fights it every time? And then the owner of the note is like, it's not worth spending $20,000 to fight this thing. I mean, there's so many, things that can happen like that. I know somebody who on a low dollar note ended up getting in a legal battle and ended up just wiping the note because it would have cost him more to fight it than what he could recover and stuff. So it's like, it's not even worth it. And took took a loss on it. But at the end of the day, is like I would have lost more if I kept fighting, because I'm fighting a borrower who has a family member who's an attorney that can just constantly file motion after motion that cost me $1,500 every time to respond to, and before we even get to court. And they wanted a trial which would have cost $25,000, and the person's like, the balance is only $10,000 on the note, so why fight it? So.
And that is how you analyze a tape like a pro. If you want access to the full show notes, head over to notenuggets.com/tape. And don't forget to check out that free note finding guide at notenuggets.com/find notes. Until next time, ladies and gentlemen, thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of the Note Nuggets podcast. Be sure to subscribe to the show to get access to additional weekly value nuggets and get notified with episode updates. To subscribe, all you have to do is head over to subscribe.notenuggets.com. If you have any questions about this episode or note investing, book a time on Kevin's calendar at contact.notenuggets.com. We'll see you next week with another note nugget to add to your tool belt.